fighter has the highest fight IQ?
I don't think there's nobody in the game that has the fight IQ that I have.
Off the charts.
His IQ
the
is
highest
insane.
fight IQ maybe ever.
This guy hits hard. He's tough. He's this, he's that. And this guy has a dream. But my fight IQ will win this fight.
Welcome to the Fight IQ podcast. We're back with another episode. This is pretty much just going to be a little yap session about some fights that just got announced. As you can see on the left side of the screen, UFC 312, Duplessis versus Strickland 2. You know, Martin, I think we can both agree, like, this is not the fight that we wanted to happen.
Yeah, man, this is actually a bummer. I'm a really big fan of Dricus so far as the middleweight champion. I feel like he's an entertaining fighter to watch, regardless of what you think of his what skills he brings. He always finds finishes, and he's passed every test that was put in front of him. I feel like Sean Strickland, on the other hand, he kind of just camped off a really lame win over Paulo Costa, and they're just kind of going to reward him with a rematch. A lot of people do think he won the first fight between him and Dricus. So, but at the end of the day, all we're doing is just preventing Khamzat from getting gold right now. He's on fire. You should really be trying to keep him active since he's been so inactive the last few years. Now that he's fighting, you know, we should have been trying to get him into a title shot. And I know Dricus was also calling for it. So just seems like Strickland just kind of got what he wanted here. And it's kind of annoying.
Yeah, honestly, I think this is a big mistake on the UFC's part. Like, what, you're just going to put Khamzat on ice for close to a year? Like, hope that Strickland and Duplessis both don't get injured in this fight? Like, let's be honest, like, they're probably not going to. It's probably going to be just a pitter-patter like the first fight. Mm-hmm. Strickland is just like, fuck, he just turns it into that every single time, with a few exceptions. But I think this is a blunder. I think this is big. Like, sure, the first fight was close. Sure, does it technically warrant a rematch? Sure, like, yes, in a lot of situations it would. Like, if we don't have multiple up-and-coming contenders that need to fight right now, that don't need to be like, Khamzat does not need to be sitting out for a year right now.
Mm-hmm. And then it's like, what are you going to do? You're going to make Khamzat sit around and wait for the title shot? Or are you, like, I think the only thing that you can do to kind of make this situation cool is if we do Khamzat versus Izzy on the undercard. Or like a Khamzat or a Izzy versus, because I do see them putting Israel in like the feature fight of this. Mm-hmm. Maybe like that middle pup fight on the card versus like Kyle Boharlio or something, or a Nassourdine Imavov.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, what are you going to do with Khamzat? Are you going to make him fight a top 5 guy now?
Well, dude, it's kind of like the only thing that you can do now that they made this fight. Like, maybe on the undercard, I like Izzy versus Khamzat. I think realistically, it's the only fight that if Khamzat's not getting the title, like, who else is he going to fight? He has to fight a former champion. He already just destroyed Robert Whittaker, like, instantly, like, evaporated him. And I think you do Kaio versus Nassourdine Imavov.
That's sick, but I just thought about something. Ramadan is going to come up, so it's not like we're going to have Khamzat. If he's not going to be in the January card, he's not fighting until April at the absolute earliest. So if it's not Khamzat right now and he's not fighting in January, then he's going to be on ice until, you know, the middle of next year because of Ramadan, and then you don't want to start a fighting camp off of, you know, putting your body through that kind of thing. So it just kind of it's really,
that might be why they made this, to be honest,
mm-hmm.
because they knew that Khamzat wasn't going to be able to fight in time.
Mm-hmm. And he's going to be, you know, those first 3 months of the year are going to be pretty much out for Khamzat. So I think we're probably going to see Izzy versus Boharlio or Nassourdine on that undercard then.
Most likely,
and then,
yeah.
And then, yeah, man, it's just very unfortunate. I wanted to see that Khamzat versus DDP fight. If Strickland ends up fucking fluking a decision like Juliana Pena did against Pennington or something like that, like a fight where it's like he obviously lost, but for some reason they just give him the fight. And we end up having to see fucking Khamzat versus Strickland. I'm just going to be so irritated. Like,
I know.
Yeah, so.
I know.
He has a chance to fuck up a lot of shit for the middleweight division.
He does. I mean, and Strickland kind of does that. But, I mean, just to, like, go a little bit further on like, who the next contenders are, like, dude, when you think about, like a fight night main event. You know what I mean? Like we've been getting handed some pretty shitty fight night main events. I mean, they just announced Amanda Ribas versus who was it? Mackenzie Dern. Like, come on, bro. When I want a fight night headliner, I want a Nasruddin Imavov versus Kyle Bohalio. Two guys who they're at the point now where they've reached the bottleneck, and they're like, it's no longer okay. Two contenders coming up the division. It'll be fun to see them fight later. Now is that time. Like in terms of like under the title picture, that would be the fight that I'd be most excited to see. Now that Duplessis versus Strickland got announced, and so we have to like think about like, okay, well, what does that mean for the top 5 of the division? Mm-hmm. I would love to see that personally.
Yeah, and another thing too is it fucks the division up long term because you have so many people coming up that are hot right now. You have Fluffy Hernandez. If RoboCop gets a win over Cannonier, he's going to be in the picture at least somewhat, you know. Yeah. Depending on how active he wants to be in that time.
Did you guys cover much of RoboCop versus Cannonier in that last video you and Andrew did?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we talked about that matchup. But,
yeah, I'm happy for RoboCop though. Just to like give my 2 cents on that. I'm proud of him, and I'm happy to see him getting a big fight. That's all.
Yeah, dude. Props to Cannonier for taking it. It's a tough fight, especially at this point in his career. Yeah. But you know, these are people that are all going to be up there in the conversation around this time next year, and we're still going to be sorting out the Hamzat, Strickland, DDP, and then we have all these other dudes that are just like, what are we doing? You know? Yeah. So like Bohalio has been on ice, and the fight nerds are really hot right now. So they're probably going to give him a big matchup, like because they were saying that they were going to give Protez Shavkat if his foot wasn't broken.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure they're like, okay, these fight nerds are insane right now, and we gotta see what they can do.
Right, but the fact of the matter is, like with Hamzat in the picture, ahead of like he's far ahead of Bohalio in terms of.
Oh yes, obviously.
Yeah.
But he should be fighting like an Izzy, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Which I thought they were gonna make, but it's never been announced. So
yeah.
Whatever. On this 312 card, the co-main event. We have a fight that, on its face, wouldn't really get you that excited, but we have Zhang Weili defending her title against Tatiana Suarez. I personally am excited for this fight just because I'm happy that Tatiana is getting her title shot finally. She's dealt with a lot of health issues, and every time she is healthy and able to fight, it is a show-out performance.
Yeah, she is like the female Habib. She really just like beats the shit out of people and mauls them on the ground like we've never seen in the women's divisions before. You know, you can make comparisons to just like the only person is like Habib, honestly, because when she gets you down, she's landing huge shots, constantly attacking, being very aggressive, and the only thing that's really held her back at this point has just been injury after injury. She has some serious spinal problems. And she's had career-long injuries that has made her not want to compete or not able to compete in the Olympics. She's beaten cancer, and all these things have just been holding her back from just being the best in the world, unfortunately. It's not her opponents, it's her body just not being able to hold up. Yeah. I personally think if she makes it to this fight and she looks anything like she has in the past, she's going to beat Zhang Weili. Either by submission or like a dominant 5-round decision. But I'm also very excited that Tatiana's finally getting her shot.
Yeah, I would actually look at the fight pretty similarly to how you think it's going to go. I think her wrestling is like extremely strong. It's better than Zhang Weili is a natural striker. Although she does have good defensive wrestling. Man, it is just a different level when you're talking about Tatiana. She made the Olympic team. She was going to compete in the Olympics and unfortunately wasn't able to. But I think if Tatiana is able to get Zhang Weili to the ground, I could definitely see a submission. Mm-hmm. I like her chances for a submission against Weili. Mm-hmm. She's got a bit of a size advantage. She's an inch taller. She's got 3 inches in reach. And especially like once it gets to the grappling, those longer arms help a lot.
Massive back, long arms, just strong. Yeah, dude. If you look at her back, it's insane, and you're just like, yeah, these girls have nothing for her.
Yeah, it comes from a lifetime of wrestling. Like
Yeah, just
you
she's
build
built
that.
for it.
Like you ever like see people or you hear people like when you see a wrestler and people like I get it because I grew up wrestling. People like it's a certain body build where you're like, oh, are you a wrestler? It just doing the certain things that wrestling requires, kind of like, especially if you do it since you're young, kind of like develops your body in a certain way. But yeah, she's strong. She's strong for a straw weight.
100%, and she has a long history of just dominant finishes. I don't think she's not really a decision fighter. She finishes almost all of her opponents, high level opponents.
Yeah, it's mostly finishes. I can bring up her tapology real quick. I've got it right here. I forgot that she was the tough champion, right?
Yeah, she ran through tough.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that. I'm looking on Tapology right now. You know, she's 11-0. Tapology has her on here as 10-0. I trust Tapology. I don't know why on UFC they have her as 11-0.
Maybe they count the Ultimate Fighter
the
finale.
Ultimate Fighter, maybe, yeah. But on here, 5 wins by submission and 2 by KO TKO. So that's 70% of her wins by finish. I like that. And then if we go back, you know, her last win, submission in round 2 over Jessica Andrade. That's impressive. If you go back, you know, she really, really brutalized Carla Esparza on the ground. Choked out Alexa Grasso back in the day. Like these are quality wins.
Yeah, quality wins.
Yeah.
And Weili Zhang has been very inactive as of lately, and a lot of her fights have been kind of drifting into that point fighty, just doing what I need to do to win style.
Yeah.
Especially in her last fight against Yan Jianan, she was getting tagged up on the feet, and she had to resort to just smudge grappling, and she's not going to have that option against Tatiana. But Tatiana obviously doesn't have that good of striking. But
It's
I
okay.
just feel like the grappling difference is going to be enough to completely nullify a lot of what Weili Zhang is going to want to be able to do.
Yeah, Weili Zhang, she's going to need to use a ton of movement. And she, you know, like in a 5-round fight, like we've seen Zhang Weili kind of start to gas towards round 4 and 5.
I would say even the end of round 3, she's already looking tired.
Yeah, so, and she's going to need to use a ton of movement to avoid Tatiana's takedowns. So we'll see, man. I think that could be a factor. Like if it gets past round 3, that could be a huge factor. But yeah, the main event and co-main event, I imagine they might sneak another one in there. Like maybe if we see Izzy versus Kaio, they might sneak that in, even though that would only be the featured bout because Zhang Weili and Tatiana's for a title. But that's our main event and co-main event for 312. It looks like. Not the happiest about Duplessis versus Strickland, but it's what we got for now.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. We got a lot of fun shit coming out, so it would help a lot. Peace.
Peace.